Welcome, everybody. We're here on Kickin' It on the Cyclone Fanatic Radio Network on another Victory Monday. We're here with Grant Mahoney. Thank you, as always, to Kelder Manufacturing. That was a little bit of a kind of herky-jerky intro. I mean, Grant, I don't know. Do you want to take one from the top?
It's not scripted.
You just give it a shot. Do an intro. I just want to.
Welcome to the Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network. This is Kickin' It with Grant Mahoney and Jeff Woody.
Brought to you by Kelder Manufacturing.
Kelderman Manufacturing. What the hell's going on, Jeff?
Okay, well, welcome everybody. We are after a 27-14 win.
Winning's fun.
Winning is fun. 27-14 over TCU, and really, it's 27-7. That's a garbage time touchdown. Iowa State's got their backups in. We'll call it what it is. It's 27-7. They really won 106-0. That's what I thought. But Iowa State on Jack Trice, kind of the 100th year, 100th anniversary, that's the word I was looking for. 100th anniversary of Jack Trice. Cool uniforms, little bit naked down below. I'll be honest, skin tone made a big difference on whether those uniforms looked really cool or a little bit questionable.
I thought looked really good, though. Because you wore them your senior year.
But they were like a yellower gold. It was the red and gold on top.
I like these ones better, man.
Those
boys out there running around pantless.
I saw there was a thing on social media that they did an unnecessary censorship to the pants, which was A+ work. Nice. It really was A+ work. I thought the uniforms are still really cool, but yeah, like I would have looked. I feel like I would have looked okay because I'm not tan enough for that pants color to really be like, oh, that's different, because I'm kind of pinkish, like fairly pale and pretty pink. For somebody who has like a solid tan, that's not a great look. I mean, it's necessarily not great. It catches you off guard.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, thank God they had the long white socks.
And they had tan shoes with little tan toe socks. They had toe shoes. But the things that I took away from that, other than the fact that A+ on whoever the stadium intro people were, y'all got that figured out. I mean, there was some herky-jerky moments early in the season. We started it too soon. We got the ticketing thing that was weird, and there was nobody in at the first game, and then the Iowa game, and then maybe there was didn't quite get it going in the right time, and then whatever. But this one, I mean, it thunderstruck, nailed it. A lot of sirens, nailed it.
Fireworks,
a lot of fireworks, which left a haze because there wasn't a lot of wind. But I don't know how they really dialed up the weather super well too. Like I know they for sure planned that because it's the Iowa State Cyclones, is a meteorology department. They organized it because birds aren't real. Government has control of everything. But there was like a faint wind that pushed it out of the way, like right at kickoff. But there was just like a haze during the coin toss. It almost felt like the Super Bowl. A+ intro.
I think Moto was up there doing some work too, up in the up behind the press box. Had a big old fan and just like a fog machine.
He was probably just bitching about the fact that there was fog in the way that he couldn't get the video. Modi he's been the film guy there for God knows how many years, and
probably 30 years.
And he is the most bluntly honest person that, whether or not you want him to be, is the most bluntly honest person. So like you go in, and he's filming everything. Him and Alex Ernst are the two guys that have been filming everything, and then have like some student interns that help around. So you just see him in the hallway and be like, you had a bad game. Modi be like, well, that game sucked, didn't it? Like, yes, Modi, it did. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
really appreciate it.
Shout out to I'm sure he's listening. Former high school friend of mine, Justin Cook, was also a videographer. Went to high school with him.
Yeah.
Great guy.
Very ballsy, because they got to stand all the way on top of everything.
Well, yeah, especially when the kickers are aiming for him, kicking right at you.
Oh man. But yeah, first thing stuck out is intro. Nailed it. Keep that pace. I mean, I love the fact because did you go? Were you there, or were you watching this one on TV?
I watched on TV. So we got offered to go to the game, but then they're like, oh, it's row 7 or whatever. I was like, man, that's probably too low. Like, I don't like fair. I don't like standing low, and it's kind of cold. It's gonna be kind of cold. It's always gonna be like 40 something.
You're a wuss.
And I was like, well, I don't want to go at 7 o'clock at night. Get home at 11 o'clock or midnight.
You're a wuss.
I like my sleep
because you're a wuss.
Yeah,
a little soft.
Yeah. So no, I did not go, but I will be in attendance, I think, for the Kansas game.
Okay, that's the next home game, and that's like a month from now. But the one thing I really liked about the intro was that they left Thunderstruck going, and then so they did the Cyclone weather alert thing, which is A+, love it. very unique. And then they started playing Thunderstruck, and they left the kind of the sirens going on at the same time, kind of behind it. And then they had the Jack Trice tunnel, the one coming through there that has the I Will on it. That thing was lit up all just LEDs, which is red LEDs all the way through. And so they have the camera kind of backing up as the team is walking out, and it's just red light with thunder going, da, da, and it's just the whole, I mean, red for like a solid, 15, 20 seconds of build up, and then fireworks for a solid like minute. A+ intro.
Nice.
Main takeaway.
I saw pictures of the fireworks. Look good.
Main takeaway was that. So keep it up. Game day operations, A+. I'll take Thunderstruck. It's not Slipknot, but I will take it. Second thing is that was the most complete game that Iowa State has played in a very long time. Because definitely more than last year. I mean, maybe Ohio of last year, where it was like 42-6, and there's a bunch of turnovers and a lot of points. But against and we say against a good opponent, even though Ohio beat Iowa State this year, against a Big 12 opponent, where it matters a lot for the Big 12 standings, whether it's Iowa or the Big 12 season, like that, you need a game where offense, defense, special teams all play together. That was tipped start to finish. Well, second quarter was a little rough. Mostly start to finish, offense, defense, special teams executing all the way through, and beat TCU is a good team. I mean, much worse once Morris got hurt, but still a solid team with some dudes that are going to play in the league, and it wasn't close. I mean, you basically got to put your subs in the back 4 minutes of the game.
Yeah, I mean, Jeremy had warned us about their running back, and he was as good as
Amani
advertised.
Bailey, that dude,
he was good.
9 can play. I think.
Yeah.
Because what is he, a junior, senior, freshman? I mean, Aiden's going to look up.
I think he's a sophomore.
That dude can play, because he was replacing Kendra Miller, which for my money, other than Bijan Robinson's really good, but Kendra Miller was my favorite running back to watch last year, because he created so much sort of Breece Hall-ish, where there wasn't anything there, and then there all of a sudden pops out for a 12-yard gain.
He's a junior.
Okay, so Amani Bailey's.
Do you know his stats from Saturday?
From Saturday? No, I don't have him pulled up.
165 yards rushing?
152 on 21 carries.
And TCU had in total, let's see, what were their total yardage? Let's bring up the offensive statistics.
So rushing, they had 185 yards.
And he had 152 of those 185 yards.
With I say only, but a long of 29. So it's not like it's, he had a 70-yard rush or something.
Well, what did he average? He averaged like 7.2.
7.2 a carry. I mean, some of those in the first half, tackling was not great in the first half. I think a lot of times they were coming in a little bit high. I think some of it was like kind of a juiced up environment where they're trying to they're trying to kill somebody, where you hit somebody right in the middle of the ribs, you're going to knock them, get their feet up in the air, whatever. But I think some of it was that. Some of it you got to just chalk up to the fact that, like, if you're not prepared for how athletic somebody is, you might be like, damn, like, okay, that dude's got more zest than I thought.
A couple snaps.
But yeah, so some of it's just really good offensive play. Like, I mean, Chandler Morris was going to make plays. Like that touchdown pass that he threw, that's the reason why he was as highly recruited as he was, is because dude can run. He's absolutely, I mean, when you get that far off script, that is just street ball. That is try and find a window, get someone in there. Yes, would you like to tackle him? But dude, just play. Guys are going to make plays.
That was the second one too. He had one on like third and long. We had, Iowa State had 2 or 3 chances to tackle him. He slipped out and then made like however far completion to get a first down. I was like, come on, man. Like it was early on in the game, I think, and I was like, is this going to be the kind of game it's going to be? It did not end up being that kind of game, but I was like, oh, jeepers. Then he went and did it on a touchdown.
And then from that point forward, I think what Iowa State did to match that is they essentially just sacrificed a linebacker. Lovett was the guy in the situations when it was kind of a longer down a distance situation. Lovett ended up being a spy, and what a spy means in the sense of what they were playing against that is a spy doesn't mean you're sitting back at like 5 or 7 yards and you're just like, I'm going to get the quarterback. You're literally like on the line of scrimmage, about near the line of scrimmage, and you stay there because the defensive linemen are going to rush. The offensive linemen back up. They kick step. They're literally moving backwards. So you stay on the line of scrimmage. And when the quarterback breaks the pocket, that doesn't necessarily even mean that he's trying to run. When he breaks the pocket, you run to his upfield hip because you're trying to get him to stop and turn back, because best case scenario, you get a sack. Next best case scenario, you turn him back and then somebody else gets the sack. Like the sack that Singleton had, the sack that Singleton had, that was because Lovett did a really good job of getting to his upfield. Again, make the tackle, ideally, but hit his upfield hip, make him stop, and then somebody's going to be there to make the sack afterwards. So they did a really good job, I think, after that of spying the quarterback, so he can't just take off and make these spectacular, what could be nothing plays into something where it turns a nothing play into like a negative 2-yard gain, or if when you're spying and the guy breaks the pocket, you run at him, he goes, shoot, and throws it away. And then it's an incomplete pass rather than something big. So I think that was the main adjustment they had. The other main adjustment that they had from last week to this week, number 7 played. That is a huge difference. I mean, there was a play, I'm sitting on the home sideline, our seats are on the home sideline. So as the offense is moving from right to left, so going towards the south end zone, there's a play where Bailey, I think, was just about to pop out the right side, and he was like in the minus 20 or minus 30. And if Malik Verdun wasn't there, that was an 80-yard touchdown. So I was telling my wife was sitting near me, and then it's actually Jacob Imming's parents. He's a linebacker on the team. His parents were sitting right in front, and kind of Imming's dad and I looked at each other and like, last week, that was a touchdown because 7 wasn't in there. So whoever was in for him wasn't going to take the right angle, wasn't going to make the hit, whatever. That guy being in there eliminates so many big plays from happening. So like that was the big thing that I think schematically they did in the back half of the game is they spied the quarterback, and then Malik Verdun being in there most of the game allowed for run fits to just be normal.
Well, I think too that, this team is still so young that some guys are being plugged in and you see how they play, and some guys being pulled out. And I think, Lovett maybe just hasn't had the chance to really earn his stripes. And I think this game, I think he deserves more playing time because I think he played really well. And I mean, he did what he was supposed to do, but I just feel like whenever he's on the field, he's making plays. And I'm not saying the other linebackers aren't, because, you've seen Bacon in there a lot, making a lot of good plays, and Sadowski's making some here and there, and Vaughn, and I think Wilkes coming on as well too. But I was really impressed with Lovett's game, and
yeah, and I think the way that they put him in situations to be successful, and I think that is one of the things that specifically defensive coaching staff, and then we'll get to the offense here in a second. The defensive coaching staff does a really good job of putting guys in situations that they can be successful, and then not in situations when they can't be successful. And I think that's probably one of the other things they kind of went back to the drawing board from last week to this week of saying, like I noticed in the first. When you're playing against a team that runs as much tempo as Oklahoma does and as TCU does, if you have subs to start the drive, like Iowa State tends to do, they like to have substitutes, like, to give the whole safeties except, Freeler. So you have 2 backup safeties in Bo Freeler, and then the starting corners, and then maybe a backup linebacker, and they'll just rotate a bunch of guys in. But when you do that against a team that plays that much tempo, and that guy isn't quite prepared for it, they're going to keep that dude on the field because they're just going to run a play and run a play and run a play and run a play, and you're not going to be able to substitute off of it. So if you go back and watch the first probably 4 or 5 drives that most of them ended up in an interception, sort of a bend but don't break situation, the 3 starting safeties and the 2 starting corners were on the field pretty much the entire game until Verdun kind of tapped himself out because he was, he's coming off an injury. He's not quite in the same shape as everybody else is. So until he tapped himself out, and they ran Ben Nickel on the field, but it was Cooper, Freeler, Tampa, and Purchase. Those 4 were on the field, and Verdun was on the field for 75% of those snaps. And then when they did start to rotate people in, it was an obvious passing downs when you don't have to think. You don't have to fit the run. It was like, Iowa State's up by 17 and it's 3rd and 12, and now let's put them in. And then if it starts going fast again, then at that point you're less likely to see a ton of running plays. So they ran a lot more of their starters in the game for longer in situations when they could be successful, and not putting a guy like a Jamison Patton, who did play a lot in the second half, but didn't play him a lot in the first half, while the offense was still in a mode where the TCU offense is still in a mode where they're going to do anything because it's still a close game and they can run the ball, they can throw it, short pass, long pass, everything. And if that's the case, you have a young guy in there, they're going to pick on him. And so they didn't put those guys in situations like that. So I think they did a good job with Lovett of saying, you're really good at getting after the quarterback, you're a really athletic dude, let's put you in a position where you can spy, or it's an obvious passing down, go run and go get the quarterback. So it was those things that they're doing. I think they did a better job of in the second half, now that they've had 4 or 5 games to get an idea of what everybody's going to be, because this team is so young.
And I don't know too if it was so much that Jeremy had kind of talked about it, that TCU's offensive line was not quite as good as it was last year. I'm not sure if it's as much as Iowa State was just getting after the quarterback, or TCU's line wasn't that good. But I felt like Iowa State was all over the quarterback. I felt like outside of Bailey, they didn't really do anything. TCU didn't really do anything. And I don't know. Again, I'm not sure if that was so much on Iowa State or TCU, but I thought that was that was Iowa State's best game defensively that we've seen. I've seen it in a long time, but for sure this year.
Well, and I think one of the things that I liked about it, so like when in the first few drives, it was 50-yard drive. I mean, I can pull up the drive chart, the exact number of yards. I mean, TCU was moving the ball pretty effectively. I mean, they had
until they want to throw us the ball.
Right. 33-yard drive, 63-yard drive, 19-yard drive, 78-yard drive. Then after that, they went 4, 4, 9, -3, 37, 56, 35, 43. So there were, at a certain point, and by the time those 37 and 43s come, Iowa State's up substantially, so whatever. But those first few drives, they were driving successfully, and I was a little bit nervous that last week had bled into this week. But the difference is, last week you saw Iowa State trying to force fumbles or jump passes that didn't need to be there, and by trying to force it, you ended up missing it. Versus this one, how turnovers happen is you don't seek turnovers. You play really good defense and put yourself in situations, then those turnovers will find you. Like last week, Oklahoma hucks up a prayer and they have a big wide receiver catch it on like the 16-yard line, and there's 4 dudes that are trying to punch the ball out instead of trying to make a tackle. Well, if you just make a tackle, make them run another play, there's your better chance of actually getting an interception or a fumble. You know, the example is like the Bo Freeler play where his first pick, where he essentially catches it off the dude's chest because he's just in contact enough. You play physical defense, sometimes that ball's going to pop up. You're not sure which one it's going to be. So I think they did a better job this week of kind of forgetting the last play and not trying to make the biggest play on earth and just play fundamental defense, and good stuff's going to happen.
Yeah, and I'm glad that, Iowa State didn't allow that absolute ass beating from Oklahoma linger into this, into this week. And I feel like, the boys are playing good ball at the right time. I think Cincinnati is not going to be an easy game. I mean, we're a young team.
And Iowa State's 0 for on the road.
0 for on the road. That's what I was going to say. They're 0 for on the road. I will say, though, that the teams that Iowa State has lost to are combined 16-2 on the year. So it's not like we're, right? Iowa's only lost one game.
Yep.
Yeah, 16-2.
Somehow.
So, I mean, Iowa State's lost to some good teams, and yeah, it sucks losing to Iowa and Ohio, and I mean Oklahoma as well too. But I don't know. I'm drunk on the Kool-Aid, man. I think this team's clicking at the right time, and yeah, let's shift to the offensive side.
Hey, let's take a timeout though. Let's get the meat and potatoes, the real important stuff.
I was going to say best for last. We can dive into it now.
Let's dive into it right now, because I think the offense is a little bit more of a longer conversation, but let's get special teams.
You heard Coach Campbell talk. I don't know if you watched the video. It's on Instagram. He talked about, some of the guys. He said Malik Verdon, dog. Bo Freeler, dog. Our guy, Darian Porter,
special
dog.
teams ace. Bettendorf's finest. That dude's blocked 3 punts in his career. 3. Man,
he's long, lanky, fast. He's the type of guy you want going for punts.
How many punts did Iowa State have in like the decade before?
How many blocked punts, you mean?
Yeah. Before Darian Porter
by
got
Zach
here.
Sandvig alone, or I feel like Zach Sandvig had like 15 by himself.
I feel like we had maybe 2 in 5 years that we were there. I almost had 2. I could feel the ball going right past my fingers.
I think Sandvig by himself had 2. Because I played, Sandvig had. There was 1 year that I played where he did not play, and I feel like he alone had 2 or 3 by himself.
But still, 3 in a career is nuts, and 2 in the same year is nuts from one guy. So I think he is at Matthew Slater territory, like college version of Matthew Slater territory. He's the special teams ace for the Patriots, which not exactly a ringing endorsement to say anyone's like the Patriots right now, but the guy is so good at that job that he becomes part of your special teams. Is where's number 10? Because he is, whether he's a gunner, because he is the best. Him and Ben Nickel, as far as gunners in the punt team, going to be the first ones down there. That's why there's like been 0 returns against Iowa State and Tyler Perkins. But whether he's on the punt block, whether he's on kickoff cover, like you have to find number 10 because he's that good. And Iowa State's been without Darian Porter for the last 2 games because he's been kind of nursing an injury. This is the first time he's actually been back. Welcome back, Darian Porter.
Guys are healthy and they click at the right time, Jeff. I think we're going to the college football playoffs.
Also, you were mentioning good old-fashioned ass kicking. What do you think hidden yards was? And so let me take a step back because I did have a guy approach in the stands who was like, "Hey, just restate because he was like, I'm not."
Did he give you his name?
And he didn't give me his name. He's like, I'm a little bit confused on hidden yardage, and I can't be the only one. So here's a restating of hidden yards. So in a slightly different way, if your team is playing my team, and my team starts on the 30-yard line with a drive, and then the next drive you start, and then I punt, and you start on the 10-yard line, you throw a 20-yard pass, which is a big play by all accounts. That's a big play. You just got to where I started. So the yards that I gained, that I just started closer to the end zone, those yards are called hidden yards. You just total those up throughout the game, where if I average starting on the 35 and you average starting on the 25, and we each have 10 drives, I started 10 yards closer to the end zone than you for 10 consecutive drives, which mean I had 100 less yards that I needed to get to the end zone.
Which is a good thing.
Which is a good thing, because then my offense, if let's say we had 10 drives and we started on the plus 10, 10 yards away from the end zone on every single one of them, you could theoretically win a game 70-0 and gain 100 yards of offense. All intents and purposes, that's pretty good because you scored 10 touchdowns on 10 drives, but you only gained 10 yards every time. So the statistics of being like, oh, they only ran for 13 yards in the game. Well, it's because special teams put them in a situation that was so much closer to the end zone that it was easier to get. So hidden yards is the total number of yards that one team was closer to the end zone than the other team by change of possession.
So when you look at the total yards from last game, you see that TCU had 398 and Iowa State had 353.
And you'd say, yeah, TCU outgained Iowa State.
Yeah, TCU should have won this game. They had almost 50 yards more than Iowa State. I'm going to say that Iowa State won the hidden yardage battle by like 200 yards.
Aiden?
I'm gonna say 176.
I was gonna say like 120.
146 yards of hidden yardage.
All right, so meet in the middle. There we go.
If a running back had 146 yards in a day, you're like, man, that dude balled out.
That's Brees Hall.
Special teams had 146 yards, and that blocked punt was a huge part of it because you started the drive on the 11, which should have been the 5. They misspotted that ball. Should have been on the 5-yard line. Also, side note, Fox, please send broadcasters to the stadium.
I was wondering if they were
please send the broadcasters to the stadium. Even send. I love Petros. He's great, super fun. Like has the right tenor. But Petros was calling that game from Los Angeles, and so they called Ben Nickel Bramer like 4 times, and then they're just miscalling it because they're watching it on a TV, and that's not their fault. But like Fox, please send people to the stadium.
There was one play too. Obviously you were at the game. There was one play where it was a play action, and TCU threw it, and it was like focusing on the quarterback, and it's like, oh, the ball is 15 yards down the field, and you could hear the announcers, oh, they wait for the camera to pan, overthrew the receiver.
Yeah, it's not their fault. They're calling that game from Los Angeles. Anyway, I think that was because they flexed from Fox Sports 2 to Fox Sports 1, and they weren't going to send somebody on Fox Sports 2, but they did flex to Fox Sports 1, which eventually, they
would have loved the game day atmosphere had they been there.
Yep. If you want somebody to call your games, I know a guy. What's up?
His name is Grant Mahoney.
Nope. Okay. So anyway, Iowa State won hidden yards by 146 yards, including a blocked punt. And so the average starting field position, TCU averaged starting on their own 28. Iowa State averaged starting on their own 37. Starting on your own 37, the most yards on average, the most yards that you could gain on that is 63 yards. That's the most yards in any one drive with that average that you can get, 63 yards on that drive. That is terrific starting field position because you just want to win. You want to win it by 10 yards. Granted, you didn't quite make that happen because it was 37-28. But man, that's a big, huge day for special teams.
And I think we could have even pinned. I think Iowa State could have pinned TCU even deeper.
And Perkins had a bad day.
He did. I'm still on the All-American train, but he
had a bad day.
He only averaged 34 yards a punt. Of his 6 punts, only 2 were inside the 20. I don't know if it was windy, but a lot of the kickoffs too, and I'm not sure if it was intentional or not. But Shackford's. He wasn't putting him in the end zone. He was dropping him about the 5 or 6 yard line. Perkins would punting from the 50. He was dropping it at about the 20-ish yard line. He should be putting those closer to the goal line.
I think he got spooked by last week getting the punt blocked, and then TCU brought pressure.
Sure.
So I think he was just sort of he felt the rush.
Sure. In my opinion, too. I mean, he's such a good punter. I think he can still I'm still in favor of angling it for one of those front pylons, because if you do hit it long, you've got a better chance of putting it out at the within the 5 than you do, you know, because if you hit it a punt straight, if you're on the 50, hit a punt straight, that's 50 straight yards. If you aim for the pylon, you're hitting at 54 yards, you know, whatever, just because of the angle. I'm not good with numbers, but in math,
Hypotenuse.
whatever. Yeah. The acute angle is less than the obtuse angle. And
But technically, that's always true. An acute angle is less than an obtuse
yeah,
angle.
I'm just kind of
for all the
talking
math
on
teachers
math
out
right
here
now.
that just screaming at their podcast listening
Yeah,
device.
but I think he's good enough, and I don't know what their game plan is, so I'm not gonna, you know, I know Campbell's listening, so I will say, I know he's listening, so I will say, if we can do the red I-State stencil on the helmet at some point this year in an away game, let's do it.
Wait, what are you talking about?
The best helmet we've had. I just know Campbell's listening, so I want him to.
Wait, which logo?
Ooh, that we won at Akron.
Yeah, Akron in 2017.
The best helmets we've worn up until I think his Ames ones are pretty
The
slick.
Ames ones are clean. The Ames. Good job. The Ames.
Shout out my brother. He was the one who tweeted the video.
I missed that. I saw someone say. I missed that though. I saw
Oh
someone
my
say
God.
the Ames.
Okay.
What is that?
So a college game. Aiden, you can explain it because your brother was the one that claimed the fame.
So College Game Day, they do. I think it was actually before College Game Day. Like they have a segment on the Sports Center before where they have like uniforms of the week or something like that, where they kind of focus on this uniform means this, and it's for this purpose. This is why they're doing it. And they showed the Jack Trice uniforms, and Iowa State wore the Ames logo on the helmet because before they were the Cyclones, they were the Ames.
That's what they said.
Legitimate. And then
Yes.
end clip.
Oh, no.
So it was like they used to be known as the Ames. What?
Oh, no.
Like what a
Not
shocking
even
lack of
close.
research.
Yeah.
Like shocking lack of research. I mean, I understand, and so to be like a little behind the scenes there, I'm sure that was a producer that was just putting this thing together. They got shipped that thing, and they're like, "Oh, this would be a cool package." Iowa State, I'm sure, did the filming for that, and then just sent ESPN that thing. And I'm guessing that producer is probably like 15th in the pecking order of something. Like, just get it distributed down, do this thing, and they probably have 7 other segments to work. But Google, man. Like,
How are you just going to put that out there as if no one is going to?
If you just typed Iowa State space Ames, you would get a story of saying, "Oh, they're in Ames," and even if it's not, because it used to be Ames College, right? Like that was Iowa State Teachers College, or excuse me, not that was University of Northern Iowa, but it was like Iowa State College, and then it was Ames, Iowa, the town.
I wish you would have said something like they used to be called the Ames, which stands for American. like it was like an acronym.
They made an acronym for but they just completely leaned into the idiot. Yeah. But yeah, the Ames. Great job, the Ames. So proud of that. This is now we've trashed Fox Sports and ESPN. Who else is a broadcast partner of Iowa State Broadcasting?
Apparently Peacock puts out sports now.
That was, I mean, I have to somehow watch that game because I still on Channel 5 on Saturdays.
Bless your heart, Jeff.
I do break that down. It's fun to watch their defense. It's really good. That defense is super, super good. And Cooper DeJean's the best player that Iowa State has played against at any position in a couple years. And everybody else, though, especially on the offensive side, good Lord. And I don't know. I mean, so Aiden, you're a Bears fan, right?
Unfortunately.
Okay, so you have at least had a couple good games. So like, imagine if you're an Iowa fan and also like a Steelers fan at the same time.
Just watching the exact same
It's
team.
just the
Just
same-
copy and paste.
it's the same
Especially
colors.
with the Steelers in Iowa.
It's the same colors. It's the same great defense with garbage off. I mean, I don't know how. I mean, at least Iowa State at this point has gotten some offense going. But okay, before we get to the
Way
Iowa
too
State
much
offense,
Iowa talking.
before we get to the Iowa State offense, Chase Contreras missed a field goal, bud.
Yeah, he sure did. So let me see here. So on he had a 49-yarder. He hit it clean, but that's where that's where his hips were pointing, and so at the point of contact, his
Bad aiming point.
yeah. So his I mean, you want to have your hips square to your target when you're hitting it, and his hips were square to that left upright. I had to go back and rewatch it because I wanted to see if that's how he stepped it off. The broadcast kind of came in as he was taking his steps over, so I didn't really see his angle stepping back. I think his angle was fine, but when he planted, his plant foot was facing at that left upright. Hit it well, just hit it straight, hit it left. We had solid snaps, so shout out to Knobloch for having
Clean snaps.
clean snaps, good snaps. We want to see that on all punts and field goals, PATs. Looked good there. Yeah, we talked about Darian Porter, dog, blocking
Dog.
that punt, and then
Dog.
Perkins, still in the All-American bandwagon. Bad game, but
Hey, even
He's
Clay Thompson's
human.
Clay Thompson's going to go 2 for 9.
he's human.
know?
So, it's good to see he is human. I expect him to absolutely come out and crush it versus Cincinnati because he is also a dog.
With the missed field goal, I mean that was a 49-yarder. It wasn't like it was a chip shot. Like the margin seems a lot smaller from that distance where you're like what if you're kicking 10 field goals from 50 plus? What should be reasonable expectations of how many you make from 50 plus? I mean
10.
Okay, yes. You want to make 10, but in the same way like a PGA golfer is going to you're 150 yards out. They're going to put it on the green 8 times out of 10, but they're still going to miss twice. And for me, I'm thinking that if I can get from 150 yards, if I can put it on 5 times, I'm doing pretty good. So like realistically, not Justin Tucker, what are the odds of making 50 plus yard kicks?
If we exclude our guy Blake Groupie because he's not human, he's a robot.
5'7" stud.
That's right. I mean,
Animal, perfect athlete.
Yeah, I mean, I don't ever want to, when I was kicking, I never went out there thinking, oh, is this one going to go or not? Like every time you step out there, you think you're going to make it. So, what is a good percentage over 50? I don't know, to be honest. I mean,
80, 70?
Yeah, I think that's really good. I mean, if you're 7 to 10 from 50, that's really good. I think even 5 for 10, you could say would be good.
So far, the fact that Contreras has made all but one of his 49 plus yard field goals, we can sort of just like, hey, shit happens. Get it next time.
Yeah, I mean, he bounced back, and honestly, the short ones he had, in my opinion, those are harder than the long ones.
Really?
The ones that are real close. Oh yeah, like that sharp angle. Those ones are hard. Promise you. You ask any kicker, they're gonna say, "I don't like those short ones."
What's ideal kick? Okay.
I have some bad news.
What?
Someone in this room was 5 for 14 from 50 plus yards in their career.
It was me.
It was Jeff.
It was me.
I know.
I was 5 for 14.
I know. It was
Hey, you got to believe it though.
Hey, when you got a big leg, you let the big dog eat. Sometimes he eats, sometimes he starves. I think over while we're talking my stats, I think I had over half of my kicks in my career were from 40 yards or further. You can look that up. 35 or 40 yards.
34. Wait, from how long?
From either 35 and further or 40 and further. I think over half my kicks.
40 and further, you were.
We don't need to say the numbers.
Just the total number.
You kicked 34 kicks that were 40 plus yards, and you only kicked 32 kicks from 30 or 39 and in. So yeah,
dude's got a big leg on him.
He might be skinny, but he's got some power.
That's right. So again, that's kind of along with the hidden yardage. You look at the numbers, doesn't say the whole story. You got to dive in and be like, oh shit, this guy had over half his kicks are from 40 yards. Stud.
Somebody's defensive about their statistics.
Dog. No, I'm not defensive at all, man. I was proud. I mean, I always said, okay, so I don't know if I said this already in the podcast or not, that my dad kept a scrapbook from all of like when we were in college. And one of I can't remember who it was, Des Moines Register, someone asked me after the game, like, oh, how did you feel about in my sophomore year, I think, maybe freshman year, I attempted like a 57 yarder freshman year versus Army, I think we played. Missed it, and I was short. But like, how did you feel, going out there kicking that one? And I said, I felt really good. I was out there smoking them, in pregame. I felt really good about it. In the news clipping, they put, I felt really good. I was smoking in pregame. I went back and read that. And I was like, what in the world? Like the editor didn't see it and think, oh yeah, this is okay. That
just needed a cig to kick those.
You just need to puff on a heater before you get yourself a Lucky Strike before you get your
little Black and Mild action.
That's right. Swisher sweet, baby.
I was smoking before the.
It's like, come on, man.
It's like Len Dawson in the locker room. He just got a cigarette in his mouth. It was offense, defense going to their meetings. Hey, if they come out a 3-eye, we got to make sure that we do. And there's specialists. you and Guy are just passing back and forth a Marlboro.
Yeah. You go, Zach, take a hit.
Oh, God bless it. Oh man.
Should we talk about offense?
We can talk about offense. Before, because we do have to say though, this is if anyone's expecting an interview, it's probably not going to be in the title because Aiden's pretty good at putting titles on it that are appropriate. We don't have an interview this week because everybody said no.
Actually, they didn't say no. They just didn't respond. Like, just left me on red. Just ghosted me. I take that back. Almost had Travis Kelce, but
he's busy.
But yeah, his PR guy said he's a little busy.
So I don't know why. I don't know what he's doing. I haven't heard anything from Travis Kelce in a while.
I also texted Taylor Swift and said, "Hey, like I know the PR guy says no, but like any way you can get him on. Like you don't need to be on, but like can Travis be on?"
I don't care about you.
She laughed at that text.
Just did the emote, like just the tap to reply, like the yeah, that's it. Didn't actually send an emoji back. Just
I know she read it, but that's okay.
But yeah, before we do, so we don't have an interview. So the Goldfinch Athletics interview is not actually a thing this week, but we do have fun stuff. So we got finally been working on this for a while. We have all of our gear, our custom gear. We're working with a company called TYR. They're huge, like the Paris Olympics. They're going to be the primary swimming sponsor for the Olympics. They are going to be there with as far as the CrossFit Games. They're like 3 of the top 4 athletes and 7 of the top 10. They're the primary sponsor of them. It is high quality stuff, and we get all of our custom stuff on there, and it can ship directly to your door. So all you have to do, another fun fact, get 20% off everything in the store if you just go to fitness.tyr.com and sign up using code GOLD1. It gets shipped directly to your door.
The number one or spelled out?
Just the number 1, GOLD, the number 1. Sign up fitness.tyr.com. Sign up using code GOLD1, and whether it's our Goldfinch custom stuff or tier stuff, shoes, lifters, training stuff, swimming stuff, kids stuff, all of that is 20% off. So
it's a hell of a deal.
Fitness.tier.com. You get your Goldfinch athletic stuff or just regular tier stuff. But anyway, yeah, check it out. So Aiden, you're going to put the link in the bio or in the link in the description?
I can do
that. Attaboy. Okay. That's what I pay you for. I don't pay you anything.
This week's Blake Groupie update is also brought to you by Goldfinch Athletics. He is 11 of 12 on the year. So our guy Blake Groupie, Brent Bloom's out here doing the Lord's work.
$5.60 of pure stone, chiseled granite.
Just Aiden White out there. Just
So Iowa State's offense. Iowa State ran the ball for the first time.
Let's talk about Brendan Black
all season. 51, true freshman, coming from the crew.
Road grader.
But this was the first time. So Iowa State, in the first half of last week, this lineup is what they went. It went Neal, Hufford, Jim. His name is Jim. You got a center named Jim. You call him Jim. So Jim, and then Black, and then Miller. And so you've got that lineup has sort of been easily the most effective run blocking lineup. And I think it was back in last year we were talking about this. The easiest comparison with the offensive line is that it is very similar to a basketball team where you don't necessarily need the 5 best, air quotes, basketball players. You're saying you're looking for your best 5. But you need the 5 guys that communicate and play the best between them. And sometimes that is just like sheer happenstance. We're like, just maybe there is a point guard and a shooting guard that just totally understand spacing. It's not communicated. It's not spoken. They just intuitively understand if this point guard is coming up on the left side of, I didn't play basketball. He's coming up on the left side of the court. I need to make sure that I am, the feeling of space needs to be further away and they just get it. Well, you want them on the floor together.
High basketball IQ.
Yeah. And just the combination of the 5 guys that function the best together, that lineup is what you want. So is Black one of our best 5 linemen? Maybe, but within the framework of this offensive line, he is definitely one of the best 5. Now, another little thing that gets thrown into this is Remsburg's eligible to come back this week. He has been dinged up a little bit, so I don't know if he's going to play, especially because it's Cincinnati bye week at Baylor. So you have another week after this, so really 2 more weeks if you wanted to get him back for Baylor. But he might, if he's healthy enough to get some action, just to shake the cobwebs off. Like, I'm guessing he's going to get at least some run, and he's probably going to go in for Neal. But Neal had his best game of the season. So this The offensive line finally played a good run blocking game, and there's reasons for that. But the offensive line finally played their best game, and Black being a true freshman at guard, that is wild.
Yeah, that's really impressive. I think the only one that ever, I think Scott Houghton. Scott Houghton plays a true freshman when we
and
played.
KO. Houghton and KO in the same year.
KO was a redshirt freshman, but yeah, point still stands.
So I had two freshmen.
Two freshmen, but yeah, I mean, point still stands. And both those guys, so I think Scott could have gone NFL. And obviously KO, he could still be playing had he not gotten hurt.
Yeah, well, I think he's doing well enough for himself. I think he's just he's an investor now. Like that's his primary job is he just took all the money that he made and is now just investing in companies and stuff like that.
That's pretty smart.
Good for him. He's sharp, super sharp dude.
One of the highest paid linemen at one point.
At one point was the highest paid offensive guard in the history of the NFL, which worth it. He's got 2 rings to prove it. But the offense, like the thing that the offense did is, so when they're talking about like letting Shieldhouse cook, this is the baby that was finally born by actually just saying, what do you want this offense to be? Because early in the season, when they were running that really condensed front, a safety would play down, because if I have 2 or 3 tight ends on offense, you have to have a body around, because if you just let a tight end, even if it's a passing play, if you just let a tight end just free release and run down the field, that dude is too big to be able to just let him go. And so you're going to want to get some hands on him, play him more physically, because then you let a receiver, as far as receivers go, tight ends are slow compared to wide receivers. So you let a guy that's a little bit slower and you make him change his route. He's less in rhythm of the offense. So you're going to play him physically. So you're going to put down anyway. And also if Iowa State's shown the tendency to run, I'm going to put a guy closer. So I'm going to play that safety way down. So yeah, there's 2 or 3 tight ends that are in the box. So you have numbers, air quotes, but there's also another safety down there. So you're bringing more to the party, and you have to then be 100%. And even if you are 100%, that safety that's up top, he's probably going to have some type of run fill. And if you haven't shown a reason that you need to keep him back, that guy is going to be often the one that's either making the tackle or forcing a running back to bounce, even if you do block it cleanly. In the past 2 weeks, Rocco and the offense and Shieldhouse letting everything spread out has forced teams to defend all 52.5 side to side and the entire length of the field, even on run fakes. So because a lot of their big shots have been on play action, that run action that you're trying to get on play action doesn't mean I collapse downhill, which leaves room for the running backs, because play action, that run action, I put my hand out if I'm Rocco, that doesn't mean handoff. And if for whatever reason he pulls up to throw, because Iowa State has been good in the play action game, you've got to stay honest, which leaves the safeties much less aggressive, puts them farther back. You put faster guys in the field, it puts that other safety back. And now the thing we talked about after the Ohio game, because of the spacing, because of the effect in the passing game, there are less people in the box. There's more space, and there's more space between them, that the offensive line has time to do the job they need to, and now they're sort of understanding what they need to do.
Well, I think what we'd seen with Breece Hall, I mean, we were spoiled with him. Yeah, he's obviously a freak, but I think I saw an interview one time with him and LaDainian Tomlinson, and he basically told LT how he like hesitates, or he basically sets up the.
Yeah, he's looking at a certain guy.
Yeah,
like he knows.
He sets up. He basically like toys with the safety.
He knows who's blocked and who's not blocked based on the scheme, and says, I want to get that safety to commit because that guy's not blocked. And Coach Pope would always say that one's on you. If that safety's unblocked in the scheme, because if there's not 11 guys on offense, one's a quarterback who handed it off, another guy's a running back, there's only 9 guys that are left to block. Well, there's going to be unblocked guys. So if that safety is unblocked, that's you.
And I think what Breece did a really great job of is sucking that safety down and then boom, bouncing out and doing his thing. And that's why you see him have so many long runs. He just had a 72-yarder this last week. But I think the more that Iowa State is able to, get safeties to commit, because we need to run the ball, we'll be able to see more passes over the top to tight ends. That's part of the reason too why we saw Kohler and Allen be so great, because they had to respect Breece, but Breece also on play actions would get those safeties to suck down and then boop over the top.
Well, Steve-O had a 24-yard catch on that exact thing.
Exactly.
Is that you start screwing with the guy's capacity, the safety's capacity, because TCU plays, it's like a poor man's version of Iowa State's defense where they play at 3-3-5.
It was very poor on Saturday.
Yeah, fair. Iowa State did well, but that was also not great. But they have that middle safety that plays kind of like the Bo Freeler position where you're trying to play up in the run game, trying to play back. Well, you screw with
a
that
rover
guy.
Kinda.
Yeah, you screw with that guy. If you can bring him up because the running game is successful, well, then you throw it back behind him to a tight end, Steve-O or Bramer or whatever, and then you make that guy have indecision, and then all of a sudden, like if you go back and watch Sama's house call, which go Rams, by the way, champs, only produce greatness. Anyway, silence in the room. But if you go back and rewatch that, you have there's two safeties there. Both of them were unblocked, but they took different angles because of what else was happening. And so Sama paced it pretty well. And eventually, once he took off, I mean, no one's going to catch him if he's actually taken off.
Dude's
but
fast.
There's a tight end on one side that number 3, I don't remember if he was a middle safety or whatever. Number 3 had to commit towards that tight end side because he wasn't sure if there's going to be a play action shot. That was the same thing that Steve-O hit, the same thing that Bramer hit. So he can't go right to where he needed to fill. And then there was a guy who was bringing pressure off the outside that Sama just outran, but they took bad angles, not because they're bad players. Yeah, I mean, yes, you want to take better angles if you're a defender, but they took bad angles because the offense has been shown to hit every spot on the field. So you can't just go see ball, hit ball. You go see ball, check that against what you think has already happened. Oh, something bad's happened. See ball, hit kind of ball. Hopefully you can play both. Then you give up a big 61-yarder. So this offense I feel confident that this is a replicable thing from week to week to week. And we've seen it 3 weeks in a row. Second half of Oklahoma notwithstanding because they were trying to score 20-point touchdowns. But 3 weeks in a row, this offense has been efficient in both in the passing game primarily against Oklahoma State, and then TCU corrected against that, and they were able to run the ball. So now they're playing both running and passing game that they can do what they need to do on an offense.
Yeah, and I would say just so young. We got, freshmen and sophomores back there. And, Sanders had a great game, and which is good. I mean, hasn't really been like fully healthy, I don't think, all year. And he just was out there Saturday and looked great.
Yeah, had 16 for 99.
Yeah, and I don't know if he has a 100-yard game in his career. I feel like
1 yard away, man.
Yeah, I know it.
Oh, damn it. Also, you want to know a fun fact? How many seniors recorded an offensive statistic? How many senior football players recorded an offensive statistic on Saturday?
I want to go on a limb and say 1. Easton Dean.
1. Exactly 1. Rocco Becht, freshman. Eli Sanders, sophomore. Abu Sama, true freshman. Cartavius Norton, sophomore. Carson Hansen, true freshman. Jalen Knoll, junior. Easton Dean, senior. Steve O'Klotz, junior. Jaden Higgins, junior. Bramer, freshman. Hansen, freshman. Sama, freshman. Jackson, junior. Norton, sophomore. Literally 1 senior recorded an offensive statistic that's not an offensive lineman. And even if you look at the offensive line, Neal, junior. Hufford, senior. Jim, sophomore. Black, freshman. And then Miller is like a 27-year-old. But you have...
He probably has a COVID year left or something.
Yeah, but there's really 3 guys, between Hufford, Miller, and Dean. There are 3 guys that recorded an offensive statistic. And now I'm sure there's some other guys that were missing, but like, this is an incredibly young roster, and they're still able to produce like that. I mean, for the back half of this year, you'd expect them to continue getting better, as young guys are going to be doing. But if you look even in the future, I'm sure there are going to be some transfers in and out of this, but the core nucleus of this roster is set for a while. Like, this is it is a fun time to watch now that the offense has been sort of unchanged from where they had been in the past.
Well, and we are in October now. Or as I like to say,
Rocktober.
So I don't expect us to lose ever again. But it's
that's why they put the bye week in there, trying to hold the man down.
Wow, those dirty dogs. You're right.
A bye week in October.
Those dirty dogs.
And 1 home game is
one home game and a bye week in October. They know what it is.
They're really trying us, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Bastards. I think Rocco has looked good he's gotten better and better, more comfortable every game. This last game statistically wasn't like one of his better games, but he made good decisions. I mean, there were some that you saw him throw a ball away that last game, I think he forced it and got picked off. Looked like the same play, threw it away. Wasn't there? Threw it away. So
well, and Jalen Knoll would have had 2 touchdowns if they were on time. So like, again, they're still freshmen. Like, they're still figuring this out.
Yeah.
And this is also kind of the chains being off of the offense as far as playing in a lot more open. They still will run a 2 tight end sets, but I haven't seen a 3 tight end set in a while. They'll usually run 2 tight ends and then bring Higgins in as sort of an attached, quote, tight end because he's a big dude. He's not a tight end, but it's a a more vertical receiving threat out of that more condensed position, which makes the safeties have to think a little bit. But like there's 2 corner routes that the way TCU was playing, they played tight down on the number 1 receiver, and they played off and inside of the number 2 receiver. That corner route is there every single time they line up in that. If you went 2 by 2, so 2 receivers on one side, 2 receivers on the other side, to the wide side of the field, they gave you that corner every single time. So there is 2 or 3 times where that was thrown. It was thrown either late or overthrown. And so stuff like that, that's the stuff you're going to go back in the film room. And another really nice thing, and I think is low-key really important with a freshman quarterback, what position does Nate Scheelhaase coach?
Quarterback.
Because the offensive coordinator is the quarterback's coach, meaning throughout the week, they're going to be practicing stuff that you would normally be practicing, like with an offensive coordinator. But then at the end of the week, come Thursday, he's going to have a conversation the entire time during film meetings being like, what are you comfortable with? What are you seeing here? Because like on paper, there could be things that look, let's use that corner route for an example. Let's say that like that based on that coverage, I don't know if it was cover 4 or cover 2, but either way, that corner route is going to be open with an off inside defender over number 2 every single time. But if we can't hit it, then you just throw it out because it's a wasted down. And so you then have the conversation in film on Thursday or Friday and say, what do you like? What do you not like? Let's cross this off the play sheet. What do you really like to see? Hey, what makes you feel comfortable? And then you can coach to that and you can call to that, which has allowed Rocco to be a lot more comfortable because he has a lot more, I know why this play is being run because they've already had that conversation where I do appreciate offensive coordinators that are offensive line coaches because you do want to have the offensive line also comfortable because if your offensive line is really good, everybody can be average and you can still have a really good offense. But having the quarterback when he's a baby, a freshman, having him have the coordinator in the position meeting room and having that guy also having played quarterback within the last like 15 years, understands how everything goes and understands the emotional importance about keeping him calm, keeping him comfortable, making sure he knows what's going on. So like Scheelhaase and Rocco being in the same room, like that has been sort of a secret sauce of this year. And the more comfortable he gets and the more that safeties then have to respect that, the more comfortable the offensive line is going to be, the more comfortable the running backs are going to be. And it's sort of this upward feeding cycle that this is a sustainable offense so long as Rocco does what he did in Oklahoma State week and this week and not turns the ball over a couple times like he did against Oklahoma, which again, as you get older, those things become more comfortable to do.
So you're telling me that Rocco is just one big ball of clay, just a big old gooey ball of clay that Scheelhaase is molding into a superstar.
Just molding, just understanding if we're keeping the clay metaphor, perhaps you want to make this clay into a giant vase. But if you spread it out too thin, then that's not going to be structurally sound enough. This thing wants to be more of a candle holder. And you change it to what it needs to be based on what it can handle. And then you mold it to what it wants to be, what it can handle, and then don't force it into situations that it's not. So this has been a really nice thing. And I think Campbell will look back on this probably at, everyone does the season postmortem, coaches, players, whatever, and say that was probably one of the best moments of being able to, Williams and Bloom talked about it on Sunday. When you get absolutely just shit canned like they did against Ohio, and you have to look into the mirror and say, what are we doing wrong? How do we fix this? And then coming up with a solution, that's got to be super rewarding. Whatever the season ends up being, which I think it still has a chance to be pretty damn successful, whatever it ends up being, this season is going to be looked at as a substantial success because of what they were able to do. And also, can we bring up the guy who said, Campbell, you're on the hot seat? If someone's around that guy, just flick him in the nose, like really hard. Just not super abuse, just a little bit. Or just say, hey, buddy, do you eat your own crow yet?
Yeah, look him around the eye and say, you dude.
Duck? We're going to put the duck there? We're going to put the duck there.
Let's talk about Cincinnati for the next 5-10 minutes, and then let's give our listeners back some time. I think it starts up front with Emory Jones, their quarterback.
Up front? You say he's not up front. He's a quarterback. Quarterback's like the least up front person.
Yeah, but he's up front compared to the running back.
Sometimes he's not at all up front. He's usually the guy there are rules in the game that defend him from getting hit.
I used the wrong verbiage there. Okay, so looking at Emory Jones, their quarterback, in his 6th year of college, the dude is...
Hopefully he's getting like a doctorate.
He's probably 24, 25. I mean,
started at Florida, was thrown to Kadarius Toney.
At Florida for 4 years, his stats were very meh. I mean, yeah, he had 16 attempts is for his freshman year, 2 touchdowns, no picks, 38. I mean, he's averaging his completion percentage is like around 60%. His senior year,
His first senior year?
His first senior year was 2021 at Florida. Threw for 2,700 yards. Not bad. 19 touchdowns, 13 picks. Not great. Last year he was at Arizona State. Had no idea. I mean, I didn't.
Herm Edwards, man.
When I had heard that Emory Jones came, I thought, Emory Jones came from Florida. I didn't even know he had
Arizona State.
Didn't know he had a pit stop
year.
Yeah, didn't have a pit stop in Arizona State. Last year threw for 1,500 yards. To my understanding, he played all 12 games. I don't know. 7 touchdowns.
Arizona State's terrible.
Yeah, 7 touchdowns, 4 picks. Not good. This year, he has thrown for 1,200 yards. His stats are actually almost identical to Rocco Beck's. I know he's played one less game than Rocco, but he's thrown for like 23 more yards, the same amount of touchdowns, and 1 more pick.
You know what's different, though?
Rocco's played our redshirt freshman.
Rocco's played in 6 games.
Emory's played in probably 60.
Yeah. So the thing with Emory Jones, and so I've watched enough Cincinnati and also Florida when he was there. I didn't watch any Arizona State games because they're always on at like 10 p.m. and I've, sleep to get. But one of the things about him is that he is very feast or famine. That's the thing that Cincinnati's gotten so far is they are very feast or famine. You're going to see a 70-yard touchdown drive and a play that makes you go, holy shit, that is really good. And also, you're going to see him stand around in the pocket for 9 seconds. Obviously, if he's got 9 seconds, that's bad. But you know what I mean? He's going to hang on to it for a really long time for no real good reason. There's going to be a guy running wide open that he just doesn't look at. So I don't know if it's indecision or if he's trying to, every single play, wants to make that big play. But that's where those interceptions come from and where the low completion percentage comes from, because he's either going to, he's less likely to get rid of the ball in like 2 seconds and much more likely to get rid of the ball in 5 seconds. Each one of them is either going to be like 2 yards or 50. And so that's the thing that Cincinnati's got going, which when you're playing, I think that's their struggle. When you're playing up in the Big 12, most teams are solid front to back. There's very few places you can pick on. So Cincinnati in the past, when you're playing against a team that's, a lower mid-tier American Conference team, or CUSA or whatever, there was CUSA? CUSA. AAC, American Conference. Yeah. So lower mid-tier American Conference, you can find like a safety and you can just wait for that guy to make a mistake and I'll throw it to him. Now, granted, he wasn't at Cincinnati last year. When you're playing against higher level competition, you have good players at each position. So I think Iowa State's defense is going to have a lot of success, but it's not beyond the fact that Cincinnati could go 3 and out, touchdown. Like that's reasonable to do because his high-end talent is really, really high, but his mistakes are also very, very common.
Yeah, and I know I'm kind of bouncing all over the place when I say this here, and I hope I don't jinx us, but of the 4 new, well, I didn't check UCF, but of the 4 new...
Cincinnati's, all of them, they are over.
They're all over.
They beat each other.
But BYU is the only one who has beaten a Big 12 team. And
which Cincinnati.
So none of the new teams have beaten a Big 12
over.
team. So I hope that Iowa State continues that trend next week and beat them. But we got to be road dogs.
Yeah, and you have to understand how to play on the road, which it is different. Your routine's different. The locker room's different. Your walkthroughs in a hotel parking lot. It's not at the Jacobson. Your lockers are different. The routine's different. Like you got to get your tape. Well, the training room might be 8x10, and they just set up taping in the hallway outside, and then you have to go get a heat pack for your shoulder, and then that's got to be outside, and then whatever, and like all this stuff is different. And so if you allow the differentness and also, noise, like especially when you're on offense, which I also really like that they added a shush thing on the complete side note, at the Iowa State game, there was like a 3rd or a 4th down that Iowa State was trying to complete. They were on offense, and there was a shush thing that they put up on the scoreboard, which is great.
Was it Dominique Orange?
I think it was. I don't remember somebody.
Oh, it was a guy. Nice.
It was an actual person.
I thought it was like the big old emoji.
No, it was like an actual person they put up at shush. And anyway, but like when you play on the road, you want it to be quiet when these crucial moments are happening. You're trying to communicate stuff. You're trying to, hey, there's this person's blitzing. The wide receiver's trying to yell at you and say, oh, the corner's slanting, the safety's over here. Corner blitz. You can't hear that. So you just have to, all that stuff is different when you're on the road, and you have to get used to that. And that's a thing, especially, again, there's one senior. And I think if you include the rest of the upperclassmen, there are 4 juniors. There's 4 upperclassmen that recorded an offensive statistic in this game. Everybody else are underclassmen. And so it takes a little bit of time to get used to. This is as good of an opportunity as any, based on how the last few road games have gone, to get everybody's focus back to be able to do the things you need to do to get a win.
And they haven't been Cincinnati hasn't been that impressive at home. I mean, they lost to Miami of Ohio.
Kept Oklahoma close.
Yeah.
20-6.
Yeah, 20-6. I mean,
that game should have been like 35-6. But
as far as Oklahoma goes, that's a close game. They lost to Miami of Ohio at home, and who loses to a MAC school.
Yeah.
They also beat Eastern Kentucky, though, which I don't even know. Shout out.
Hilltoppers, right?
Yeah, shout out Higgins. 66-13. So they can score, I guess. But I don't think they've faced a defense like Iowa State's before.
Other than Oklahoma.
Other than Oklahoma's, yeah.
And which they scored 6 points.
6 points at home.
Yeah.
So I feel good about it. Okay, last thing I want to talk about is the specialist for Cincinnati. Their kicker's really good. Carter Brown. He is...
Charlie Brown?
Charlie Brown.
Charlie Brown.
He came with Emory Jones from Arizona State. He's a true sophomore. He's 10-12 on the year. He's 4 for 4 from 40 and beyond. So definitely not like Graham Mahoney's stats. His 2 misses have come from 20 to 29.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oof.
Short ones, I'm telling you, they suck. And 30 to 39. He's missed 1 in each of them. So other than that, though, he's good. Number 33. And then their punter, Mason Fletcher. He ain't no Tyler Perkins, that's for sure. Mason is a junior. Dude's got long levers. He's from Melbourne.
Melbourne,
yep. So he's got long hair. He's 6'7", junior. Got long levers.
He's 6'7", junior from Melbourne.
He's averaging 43 yards on the season, so not bad.
43.
A
nice.
long of 57.
57?
Last year he had a long of 84.
84. Holy shit.
Dude, this accent's way better than your southern accent. So yeah, Mason Fletcher, I mean,
not really. 6'7" punter.
I'm not even going to try. I was about to try to, yes, but I can't. I sound Irish. So that's the specialist. Other than that, though, I don't even know much about Cincinnati. I think it's a very winnable game. It'd be a great win to continue on this momentum.
Yeah.
Into the bye week, who we hopefully have a special guest on next week.
Yeah, hopefully we get a special guest. No promises.
So that's all I've got for you, Jeff. You got anything left for us?
No, I think that's it. Hopefully it's a fun weekend next week. I mean, the first road games are hard. Hopefully we can take a road win.
Yes. Thank you for all the loyal listeners who are still listening right now. And remember, adopt, don't shop.